Hi everyone, today is Wednesday, September 5, and this video is actually to the sisters out there that are, looking at just doing something different with their lives. I actually wanted to reach out to the sisters that, you know, um, you know, just have an interest in books and teaching in the university and research. Maybe you've heard things about it, but you don't really know about it. I know that there's something in the community where, for example, you have other black women that can be really, really nasty, and for some reason, when they get some sort of little, I guess, social a title or something, they sort of float out into the world somewhere. But there's a whole bunch of black women like myself, and we're totally not like that. We actually don't give a shit about things called labels. We actually think about things in ways that it actually improves the next generation, and generation meaning 25 generations. And we don't repeat slavery stuff. We don't reproduce colonization stuff. But some of us don't even know what these things mean. And for those of you, you can't read, you can't write, you went through school, and you were just totally degraded and dehumanized, you were made fun of, you were told that you were stupid, all these things that you wouldn't even begin to imagine should happen in sort of an educational, instructional environment. It happens. And I just want you to know, don't be intimidated by stuff like that. Like, for example, get involved in university academic research. Myself, for example, I went through 12 years of school, and nobody even told me, like basic school, told me that that I have gifts or talents and whatnot. And I went through a lot of problems in school. Like, there were just a lot of things that didn't make sense, and everything that I questioned, there was some kind of reprimand. And I was a little girl in a predominantly white school, and I was called nigger and all these things, and people that should have known better, they just didn't do better. So I learned from things like that, and I said, you know what, one day, I'm gonna find a good way. And I learned things on my own, and they have this thing where you're supposed to go through school, you're supposed to, get married at a certain age, you're supposed to have children at a certain age. What, 1.7 children? Please explain that to me. And you're supposed to have a house and a white picket fence and all this stuff. And when you actually get into, sort of these discussions, they've got so many different words for it, but it could be discourse, it could be theorizing. But when you get into these discussions around, investigating where all these like ideas come from, none of it has been written by us, and a lot has been actually imposed on us that people don't even follow themselves. Our culture is very different. It doesn't matter where in the world we are, we have to acknowledge the next black person. And, that's just something beautiful about the black in us. We're all connected through the ancestors and, in different ways. And yes, we have some of these, sisters that are, they've got their, Christianized, colonized thinking, and, they want to degrade other sisters, who are sort of connected to ancestry. So you have a lot of this stuff that you're going to come up against. But you know what? Just fuck them. And say, you know what? Move it off to the side. Get involved in academic work. There's so many different ways to flower, and one of the ways is actually through academic culture. And in my own experience, like, I never got any support for it. I just grew up in a very, very negative environment, and I left all that bullshit. And people are gonna make fun of you, and oh, you're not making any money, but when you have a purpose, then you know what, things just, opportunities just show up to your door. And, you know, you're going to have to take some risks. Like, for example, um, before I even actually went back to university, um, you know, as an adult student, um, you know, I'm glad that I actually finished high school and, in a sense, got a sense to see what industry was like. And then after, I actually returned back to university. And, you know, when you take that channel or that step, you actually get a sense of, you know, the purpose of education. And, you know, I hear some of, you know, members from our community talking about, you know, white man this, white man this, but they don't talk about white woman this, white woman this. You know, they don't talk about, you know, black woman this, black woman this, and then, you know, just sharing some stuff about environmental justice. I mean, you know, bringing in sort of like you know, a critical perspective. I should say like more a black feminist perspective into environmental justice. You know, you're gonna get like a lot of comments, and you're gonna get a lot of these things that surprise you, but you know, you just have to learn how to process these feelings and get involved in academic work. Um, you know, a commentator actually said, you know, she was writing a piece, and she writes different pieces, and you know, her teacher is telling her that she's too passionate. And I find that very, very offensive. Actually, that teacher should be fucking fired. Because when you're actually writing from your core, you know, you don't tear down a student's self-esteem. You actually bring them all up. In my style, I said nobody fails, but there's a certain marking scheme, right? Because really it's a measure of the person from point A to point B. Some students have this thing in their head where, um, you know, like from different ethnic groups, they think, oh, well, you know, blacks are stupid or whatever, but they want to steal all the black ideas, or, you know, this notion that, you know, some ethnic group over in some other part of the world is supposed to be smarter than us. And that's bullshit, quite frankly, when you actually study a lot of different things. A lot of, you know, stuff that's been written into the university system has actually been appropriated by by white folks and non-black folk. So my thing is like, what happened to all the black stuff, you know? And we don't come from slavery. We come from, you know, engineering the most complex and the most elaborate in the world in histories of histories. And when you look at the way that, you know, knowledge is constructed, there's a lot of dumb fucking asses out there. And, you know, it's just, it really amazes me sometimes to see the level of intellect that people can actually engage with when they say they have this or they have that. Like, they get caught up in these label things. And I personally don't get caught up in that. Like, you know, I just try and understand, like, a position, okay? You know, like, something doesn't make sense here, right? So how can I explore it? And, you know, the system will also degrade you. Like, I do have videos about racial profiling and stuff, and you know, I don't even want to tell people that I'm actually, you know, a professor in training. And even, you know, family members, you have them, like, I don't even talk to them. And you know, you know, they want to know, for example, oh, you know, what kind of car do you drive? You know, what kind of house do you live in? And, you know, how much you spend on your clothes? Like what the fuck is that? You know, so I just look at these people and I'm like, you know what? For at least 25 years, you know, you folk haven't even made an effort to do something better. So fuck them. You have to actually reconstruct stuff. And for non-black folk watching this video, you know, you also have to read up on, you know, some of these black family dynamics. There's a lot of like slavery stuff that's been integrated into sort of this idea of reconstructing family. I mean, you could even read some of the comments. You know, I have a video and it's about basically, it's titled something like, Men, How Are You Helping, you know, women keep their panties up. And look at some of the comments, like, calling us nigger and, these sexual innuendos, and it has nothing to do with even what the context of the video is. So if some fucker, you know, sees a black woman, and just comes up and makes these sexual innuendos, like, that is just so fucking disgusting. And I'm glad black men are actually watching that stuff to say, you know what, that's really some fucking bullshit. We didn't even know you guys go through that stuff. So, black women, we need you involved. Um, don't worry about the sisters that are gonna, tear you down and say, hey, you can't do this. I mean, I remember in some of my experiences, actually, just had these black chickies come up to me and say, oh, you're not gonna pass class and blah blah. And I'm saying to myself, well, why would you even say anything like that to a student? Second, I have some problems with that marking scheme. So because I have some industry experience, I'm like, okay, and this is private sector, because I learned some really good things in private sector. I will have to say that private sector is so much more classy than fucking these friggin', I don't even know what you call this whole non-private sector. I mean, I see how they operate, and I just say to myself, I don't know if I would even want to contribute any of my academic stuff in credit of something called non-profit, because first of all, if you're in the business for non-profit, then everything is volunteer. And if you're trying to put theory into practice, then I'm saying, okay, we need to recover costs. Well, these guys are operating as non-profit, so recover the cost there. Like, it's just, if you see how some of these circles operate, it's like, wow, like they want to use like a little diversity puppet and stuff. And quite frankly, I don't support diversity because I think it's just bullshit, and that could be another video. So sisters, please do get involved. We do need you. You're going to be spat in the face, you're going to be degraded, you're going to be dehumanized. You may even get letters that are like rejection letters and stuff, but you know what, just keep on persevering, because the structure is set up in a way where it could be very degrading. And but when it's your love, then you're gonna find ways to actually develop that love. And you know what? Also, just make sure you have a support system in place. Like, for example, just get creative with your life. Like, say, okay, have like make sure I have like my study time. Like, designing a timetable. Like, took me 10 years, and I'm still trying to figure out a timetable to design, that will work for me. And what else? You have to design your nutrition stuff, design your sports stuff. Design, like, and go out there and don't say a word. Just, people ask you, what do you do? Oh, I just read books. I look at the birds. I love travel. What about yourself? And they just look at you, and that just shows the level of intellect that we're dealing with. Sisters, you're very smart. We gotta lift the brothers up as well. They are so dehumanized and degraded, it's not even funny. And more of them have to understand that the reason why we make these sacrifices is because we do love them. And yes, some will come in your face, they'll spit in your face, and they'll, do all kinds of things, but then you have the other ones that will be like, hey, you know what, I like that one over there, and I want to get to know her. And you know what, it's not about sexing you, it's actually getting to know you as a person. And through this experience, you learn things about yourself as well. And especially like learning about black women's, her story, instead of history. It's really, really sad. You see what has been done to black women, and how many of us don't even know, and actually how many non-black people know about our history, but we don't even know ourselves. And that's the thing that really fucking bothers me. 12 years of just basic school and no black history whatsoever. So, um, I don't have a problem talking to the sisters out there. And please do get involved. And, yeah, if you can't read, that's fine. You can learn how to read. You can even get like special, you know, they call it adaptive equipment that you can actually work with. And, you can learn how to read. At one point, I had a really bad, actually, stuttering problem, speech impediment. I don't have that anymore. So, before I was, not really into camera stuff, but I'm slowly getting used to camera stuff. So, and there's other people who want to start doing some filming and, doing some pretty cool things. So, um, get involved in academic work and, you know what, find yourself back in university. There's different ways you can actually apply to get into university. Um, you know, if you've been working for a while, you can apply as something called a mature student. And don't worry about, being sort of a different person in the environment. Who gives a fuck? Um, just go back to university and get involved and pursue your dissertation as well.